Hello, everybody. Welcome back to How Come. I think a big conversation during this Pride has been corporate sponsorships of Pride and backlash to different companies being inclusive, and then those companies pulling all of their either Pride clothes or Pride signage and all that stuff and really caving to hateful backlash and just not supporting the things that they said they were here for. Alternately, today we are interviewing Jake Dupree, who was featured by a brand. The brand received a lot of backlash, but then the company defended its decision to feature Jake. The post of Jake roughly generated 10,000 comments before the company made the choice to turn off commenting entirely because of the hate speech and bullying. And then the post's caption was later updated with a statement on inclusion, which is what you want to see in a brand that alleges to support queer people. So shout out to Birdette. We're going to talk about them all in this episode. We are so excited to have Jake on because their response to all of this backlash is just wonderful, and we get their thoughts on a bunch of other debates going on right now. So get excited and let's get started.
How come? How come? How come I can't achieve? How come I can't achieve? I'm rolling up my sleeves. I'm rolling up my sleeves. Oh baby, I believe these guests can help. 'Cause I can't do it by myself. I wanna jizz.
Welcome, Jake Dupree.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here. It's finally happened. We've been trying to do this for, I think, almost a month and a half now. So it feels good to be here.
Yeah, but like all things that you wait for, it's just going to be fantastic once it happens.
Monumental, if you will.
Monumental. So you are in London right now. Before this, you were traveling around. You were in Paris. Can you tell everybody what you were there for, what you were doing?
Yeah, so I'm a burlesque performer, and that's what I do for my job. And in Paris, I was the first non-binary person to perform at the Crazy Horse in Paris.
Congrats!
Yeah, thank you. It was a dream
Unreal.
come true. And then I was doing this other show there 5 times a week called Phantasma, and it was just like this kind of like queer positive, kind of sex positive fantasy variety show. It was amazing. And then now I'm here in London performing every week. So yeah, it's been so cool.
And where can they catch you in London?
Yeah, you can find me at Proud Cabaret every week. I'm there Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. So
amazing.
Perfect.
So how did you get into burlesque?
I was a professional dancer for a long, long time. And I guess I still am in a way. But in terms of burlesque stuff, it started probably 6 years ago. The first like official burlesque show I ever did was with Dita Von Teese. And,
Stop.
Yeah. And
the first
like official burlesque show I ever did was with her.
What?
And she, I know. And to go from that to like anything else, you're like, I don't know where we can go from here, but
we're
it's only
done.
gotten better,
Yeah.
which has been good.
That's amazing.
But yeah, so I entered this amateur drag competition in West Hollywood at Revolver. And I was going through like a really depressive time, and I was trying to do something that would kind of like shock my system back into being me a little bit. And a friend of mine sent me this flyer for a drag competition, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it. And then I did throughout the competition. It was like, different themes each week, like Beyonce week, Madonna week, whatever. And I would always kind of do like my thing, which was like burlesque, androgynous, kind of a different approach to what a typical like drag queen, I guess, would be.
Had you come out at that point as non-binary yet?
No, I had not.
Okay.
Which is crazy. But
wow.
Yeah, so I did that. And in one of the weeks I did this number based off of this burlesque performer that I would go and see all the time. Her name is Miss Miranda. And at the time, she did this number where she poured hot sauce down her leg and made this guy in the audience like lick it off. I shouldn't say guys. Sometimes it would be women. Sometimes I would see women do it, but it was mainly men.
Yeah.
Because it was just like cool to watch this.
Whoever
really
likes spice.
Yeah, it was just cool, just like watching this stunning woman being like, lick this off of me now. And it was, I don't know, something. It spoke to me. And I did the summer based off of that number. And I reached out to her, and she was like, oh my God, I want to see it. And so I sent it to her, the number. And she sent me this huge email back being like, what the fuck? Like, I've never seen. Usually when somebody tells me they're inspired by what I do, I'm always a little like, side eye.
Okay.
Yeah, like that's cute. And
that's
then
so nice.
and it was so sweet. And then throughout the competition, she kept up with me, and then I ended up winning the whole thing. It was like 10 weeks. It was nuts.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And like 2 weeks after I won, she messaged me and she was like, Dita Von Teese is holding these auditions for this show at the Roosevelt Hotel in LA. And I was like, oh, I thought it was maybe like, because there's usually 2 guys that are with her and they kind of, pick up her stuff after they take it off. It's very like background thing. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. And she was like,
pit crew.
Yeah, literally. And I was like, and she said, just go. And so I went, and it was at the Roosevelt in like the ballroom in the front, if you've ever been. And it was all these amazing burlesque performers that I had seen perform, for years now. And there I am. And, we learned this dance combination, then we learn another, they make a cut and then do another one. And it was just like it was kind of like the world stopped. Everything that I had ever, wanted these people to kind of see me, it happened. And it was nice because I came out of legit nowhere for these people. Like none of these people knew who I was. And it was kind of fun to kind of come
just
in.
Coming from like the first amateur night.
Yeah. And then, it was just really cool. And then at the callback, each of the people that got chosen for the show, she sat down and told them, what they'd be doing, or discussed like what acts they'd be doing. And so I sat down with her and she was like, you'll be doing the martini glass. And I was like, I thought it was like the person that picked up her stuff again. And she was like, no, you're doing it. And I full on cried in front of her because that was just like the number that I had, in terms of burlesque stuff, had really, really inspired me.
Totally.
And it was just wild getting to be in rehearsals and learn it from her. So yeah.
Also, it's like canon. Even if you don't know anything about burlesque, you know that there might be a woman in a martini glass or whatever. And then to be a person that was not assigned female at birth and given that role, like that is huge.
Yeah. And taught it by the person that kind of had it.
Made it famous.
So, yeah, really, it's very, very cool.
That's wild.
I feel very lucky that happened. And it was like, I just thought, it was like kind of this stamp of approval. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to see where this goes. And it's been, 6 years of doing some really, really cool stuff. So I'm proud of it.
That's incredible. And the thing is some people might say like, oh, you showed up out of nowhere, but you had been dancing and performing in general for like your entire life, right?
Oh yeah. So it was just like the striptease part of it was the part that I was, I guess, newer to, which is like, being in rehearsals with her, it was like seeing her, how she operates. It's like every moment is a picture and there's no moment wasted on anything. Like each item is so specifically taken off, and how she has mastered this over, the course of probably 20 something years. And it's really special to get to be in a rehearsal with her and like learn that from her. And
I can't even imagine.
I like really wanted to soak up like as much as I could in that moment and just be like, I just want to do her justice. And I was very determined for that. So it was good.
How do you, because like we talk about gratitude and abundance all the time in the world, like how do you, when you're in those moments, besides just like reminding yourself, like are there any little things that you were doing to like soak it up more or make the effects last longer? Yeah,
I think I always try to do this in any performance that I do, especially some of the really amazing places I've gotten to be lately. I'm like, I just want to be fully present. Like the nerves don't really kick in at all. Like I'm just realizing I'm like, this is such a moment that I never even thought would happen, or like didn't even think it was possible. So I go into something and I'm like, I just want to enjoy every moment and just try to connect and be present in that space. So it's like, I think that's a form of gratitude, is being fully present in that moment and not hyping it up to be something it's not, and just really appreciating and valuing that second that you're up there.
Yeah. For what it is.
Yeah.
Instead of the future or the past or whatever.
Yeah. Cause there have been times where I've been like definitely gotten in my head about something. It didn't go exactly as I wanted to. I still obviously like enjoyed the experience, but there's times where I just was too focused on what that was and not like present in that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I grew up as a competing gymnast. I did that from like, I started probably at 4, not competing at that point, but obviously like in my hometown, it's very, very small in Arkansas. And there's it was sort of like this thing after school thing. It was like the parents just dropped the kids off at this gymnastics school that was in our hometown, and that's sort of what they did. And I have a twin brother, and he and I, kind of were good at some of the stuff. So my parents were like, we're going to do this. And so
identical?
We are fraternal, but we look very, very similar. I always say Mary Kate and Ashley. But so we both just started competing for, we would go an hour away almost every day of the week for, it was years. And then our gym coach, he moved closer to our hometown and he opened a gym there. And so we would just go there and we did tumbling and floor and trampoline. So we did that until we were 18. And then I found dance when I went to college. I ran into this girl who was like giving up her title of Miss Dance Florida randomly. And she was an amazing dancer. And we were dancing at this like school dance, and she came over to me and she was like, how long have you been dancing? And I'm like, I've never danced a day in my life. And she literally took me under her wing, introduced me to the dance teacher at our school. And it was like the puzzle piece that always was missing that I just didn't know was gone.
That's so
but
fun.
my mom was a dancer, so it's like it's in my body. Like I understand it, I guess. And being a gymnast, you're very aware of your body, but obviously the dynamics are very different for both.
Cool. And what type of dance was it again?
When I first started dancing, I guess it was modern contemporary is like what I grew up in, I guess, in college. And then I had to really, really force myself to learn ballet technique because I had never, ever taken a ballet class. And I feel like that's like the foundation of all dance. So I had to get in there and do it.
Yeah. And I mean, I grew up doing ballet, and I remember if you weren't a little girl in the class, there was something wrong with you being there. Did you ever have that feeling?
Yeah. I mean, it is interesting, like thinking about like objectively looking back at my life, some of the spaces that I've been in, it's sort of been like kind of a first kind of experience. Like in the gymnastics gym, like we were the only two boys, quote unquote, male identifying bodies there. And that, it's just like you're inserting yourself in a situation. It's like not necessarily quote unquote where you're supposed to be. And, being in college too, I was probably one of the only, there was a few, men that were dancing, but like I was definitely one of the few, very, very few, and the few that took it really seriously, I guess. But yeah, it's definitely just been interesting, like getting to sort of that being a follow through line of my life is that I don't know why, but I guess I'm thankful for it, but sometimes it is hard and weird to kind of be.
It's hard to trailblaze.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I don't even know if I like consider myself that, like, that's so like masturbatory in a way, but.
Well, if you say it, but I said it.
Yeah. I was like, I'll let you say it, but I won't say that.
Yeah. No. And I'll backtrack. All of the girls in class, we were so happy to have partners, but I saw for them, for the outside world, it would be a judgment on your extracurricular activity. I even had a brother who, whenever he would come see me in Nutcracker, he was like, oh my God, I would love to do this too. And I was like, please. And then inevitably somebody else in the family would be like, that's not okay.
Yep. Totally.
So how do you push past? Is it just like the passion and the love, and that's where you're meant to be?
Yeah. It's like, I was always kind of told I was an other or like an outsider, probably since the moment like that people can kind of pinpoint somebody being like somewhat different, I guess. Like, especially growing up where I did, it's very conservative and very different. But my parents are super liberal and like really fun. And obviously my mom was a dancer and grew up dancing with a lot of gay men. So I'm very thankful for that. And I don't know. I don't know how that happened, but I'm happy with whatever stars aligned to make that happen. I'm very glad for that. But, it is weird to kind of have to deal with that a lot. It's very strange. And it definitely has been like something that, it still plagues me in certain ways. Like there are times where it does get to you still, even like feeling like that little kid that was excluded or that little kid that was made fun of. And it was just, So there's just been times where it's still, even though I am 35, it's like there are times where it does play into that. And you kind of, I don't know if you ever fully get over those things. You just learned how to deal with them.
You just learn how to deal with them. Yeah.
there's weird ass shit that's going on in America, especially right now with all kinds of laws and
horrible things. Yeah.
The HRC just declared that the United States is in a state of emergency for LGBTQ people. So it's like, okay, what is happening? But I think, with so much change, there always comes like the pushback, like the pendulum always kind of has to, if it swings so one way, there has to be the answer to that. And I think now it's very, I feel like more often than not, people are queer or questioning or experimental. And I think that at least there are people visible that you can be like, you can look to and be like, oh, that is a life that I would want to live, or, that's really free or whatever. But, back when I was a kid, there was nobody really like that. I mean, there's probably Elton John, Will and Grace.
No
that's
trans
all that comes
people.
to the top of my
I think
head.
the first trans person I ever learned about was Chaz Bono.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if on Jerry Springer and Sally Jesse Raphael and all those shows, like there would be trans people, but a lot of it was like a prop
it was like
almost
a human
farce.
Circus.
It was a farce. And you look, I've met some of the people that I used to see on those shows now, and it's so ridiculous. I mean, it's amazing to get that exposure and to be, to show that on TV at that point, but just the way they were treated was like, you're horrible. A clown, you're a joke. It's like, it's not a true identity. It's like some weird thing that's like a fetish or something.
Yeah. They were being exploited.
Yeah. I mean, that's pure and simple. That's exactly what it was.
We've heard of like all of these amazing things happening for you. And like, even though we know life is not easy, like it just seems like some things have come really easily. You got into modeling.
I mean, it's so weird. I just don't consider myself a model. I'm a person that takes a cute picture somewhat, I don't know.
But you were asked to do this massive campaign with a lingerie brand called Honey Birdette. And that must have been really exciting, right? When you first got that?
Okay. So the funny thing about that is that lingerie brand, I think in 2020, they reached out to me and I had worn their stuff before and they reached out to me at that point and were like wanting to send me stuff. And I was like, okay, great. And so that, even the picture that it became this virally moment.
It wasn't a campaign.
It wasn't a campaign. It was literally me. They sent me this set. I took a picture in my friend's living room. Like literally it was just two lights, him and myself. And then the company reposted my picture and I was so excited about that. I was like, I don't care. I don't need to be paid. I don't need to be anything. The exposure is great. Like, I'm not going to lie. The exposure is great. And then, all these people are writing about it and being like, it's this campaign and go woke, go broke bullshit and all that stuff. And I'm just like, y'all, I wasn't even paid. This was in my friend's living room. Like
shit.
I didn't even have shoes on,
I have researched for this and I've read it and I still think of it as a campaign because of what the mobs have said.
I know.
That is blowing my mind.
I'm thankful people do think it is a campaign because I'm like, cool, yeah, campaign girl, whatever. But it was not that.
No, but it was happening at like the same time as I think Dylan Mulvaney's Bud Light.
And then the Nike sports bra thing too.
Right. And so I think those same people who were angry at that just assumed everyone's getting brands and stuff. And like, that's where our money is going to people who they would say these things weren't designed for. Because lingerie, historically, I guess, has been a women's area. I have a friend who started this company called Menagerie, which is...
Oh, yeah. I've worn some of their stuff before.
Yeah. Lingerie for everyone. And it's amazing. And I remember when Menagerie came out, it was so little. Like there was no backlash. It was no nothing. And it was just making extra stuff that had lace. So it would be boxers or bottoms that can fit everyone.
Or like a jock strap or something like that.
Or a jock strap, right. Whereas this was a company that I think they always were catering to just one type of body.
I mean, the interesting part about this whole thing is like this lingerie company, they went through some interesting things during 2020 because the people wanted more variety in terms of like the models that they used. And, you know, even now there haven't been a lot of like curvier models that were used in any of their ad campaigns, but that has changed a little bit too. But I think I'm the first. They have used a trans model before, I think in a Pride campaign, but I don't know if they've ever posted it. I think it was just in a store display. But in terms of like a post, I think I'm the quote unquote like born male, I guess, person that they've had like a standalone post of. And I think it just happened. It was like the right thing at the wrong time posting, I guess, because the Dylan Mulvaney stuff had happened. And what's interesting is like lingerie, of course, initially it was made for women, and it will always be that in terms of just an idea. But now it's like, why can't that be shared by all different types of bodies or all different types of genitalia or anything like that? Because
literally,
what qualifies something as specifically female or what qualifies something as specifically male? I don't think that it grew out of the earth being like, oh, this was meant for women. Like that's just not what anything is.
Yeah. No, and people forget that, like the way that they forget countries have been formed and they weren't always the same. Like, let's bring it back to dance. Ballet was invented by Louis XIV, who invented high heels to wear himself to do ballet. High heels started for men. And
also wigs and makeup.
Literally, they've been doing drag for so long.
And it's like
But even that's not even drag.
In William Shakespeare times, men played women's parts like for a very long time because women weren't even allowed to be on stage. So it's like these ideas, none of these ideas are new. Just the terms and the exposure to it is newer, I guess, as a concept. But like all of this has always existed since people could cognitively make their own decisions about their own lives. Like just because it's more prevalent now doesn't mean that it all of a sudden is now a thing. It's always been a thing.
Like left-handedness.
Just now people aren't afraid to be those things. People aren't afraid to be those things now, which is the beauty of it. But also there's going to be the backlash to it a little bit. Yeah.
No, people always bring up the left-handed thing because it's the easiest thing that you can understand, that some people will say, well, there weren't this many left-handed people. And it's like, people used to get punished for being left-handed, so they wouldn't tell you they were left-handed.
Yes.
It's the same exact logic.
It's the exact same concept. And I don't know if I realized like the vitriol that would come my way from that post because I had a similar situation in 2020. I bought myself this I've been wearing lingerie for a while now because of my performances. And I bought myself this red lingerie set from Playful Promises, a UK brand. And during the pandemic, just for me, like just to have. And I posted a picture of it, because I was not doing much, but sitting at home. So I was like setting up my selfie cam and doing it. Very vain. And
just need a little attention. It's lockdown. We need some feedback.
Also, it was just, I had maybe taken an edible and was feeling myself. So I was like, that's it.
Fine.
And they reposted my picture and it turned to this thing. But the same vitriol that's like very prevalent now wasn't as much. I mean, it was still bad then, but then this particular company, because it is predominantly always been like very, very sexy women, particularly white women, blonde women, it definitely attracts a demographic of men who are probably on there to kind of, I mean, for lack of better terms, like get off looking at these pictures. And to see myself up there, I was like, I warned them too when they told me that they were going to do it. I was like, just make sure, like, be aware of this, because I've seen what happens when people post me, and like I just want you to be aware.
Yeah,
I didn't know it would turn into this whole crazy thing of people like even messaging on my mom, who has a private Instagram, like, oh my God, you're all your family should die, like all this stuff, like commenting on pictures of me with my family at a wedding recently with like gun emojis and stuff. So it's like, that's the part I was not super ready for.
Who would be ready for that?
Yeah. You can say anything about me because I'm the one putting myself out there. I know what I'm doing is a little different. It's
Yeah.
going to challenge people's norm or whatever. But like when it comes to my family, they didn't sign up for that. And there were times where I was like, should I, back away from doing this stuff? Because I don't want it to affect people that shouldn't be affected by it.
Yeah.
Like it's ridiculous. And, especially because being in America, like my parents being in Arkansas, like, people are scary and like they can find, if they want to find you, they can find you. And people do really stupid things sometimes and scary things. And so my mind was going to like a really, I don't know, it was just a really weird place. It was just taking me to a really weird place. And I was in Paris at the time, and I was literally about to open the show with Phantasma, and like all these amazing things were happening. I was about to turn 35. Like it was just nuts. Like that it was all happening in that week. And my head was like in a million different places because of all that, because it just freaked me out in a way.
Yeah, of course. And also, especially when you're performing and you're sharing your location with people and there are people that want to hurt you, you're like, I'm not telling anyone where I am ever again. I'm actually not leaving my house.
Yeah. And it's like, I feel safer being in Europe and being in the UK because, people can't carry around semi-automatic weapons, and like the police barely have guns. So it's like, I feel safer being here but in America, it does scare me a bit. Like I am scared a little bit to come back and be performing at some of the spaces that I will be performing at in the fall, because a bigger group of people from like a middle America space or like a Southern space will be at places where I'll be performing. So I just, I do worry about my own safety, and I wish I didn't have to worry about that. I wish no one had to worry about that, but I do. I do in a way.
Same. No, it makes me really upset, especially when it's performers that are just trying to bring joy. All the people who always say like you're trying to hurt people are the people showing up to peaceful events with weapons, with vitriol, wearing masks that cover their entire faces, using intimidation
I'm like, if you believe these things and you're so proud of it,
show yourself.
Exactly.
No, it's really upsetting and it's scary.
It is really scary. And I am a very strong person. Some of these things I've had to deal with, my entire life, just being like considered, like I said earlier, like an other or weird or, whatever. But to hear some of these people, say some things like that you're like disgusting, or that you're a pedophile, or all these weird things. I'm like, what are you like? Those two aren't congruous things. Like those are really, you're putting two things together that have nothing to do with each other. And it's weird. It's very weird.
It's recycled talking points from, it used to be about gay people. They're all pedophiles. They're going to make your children gay or whatever. Now it's trans people and gay people, like they're moving the needle. But it's the same rhetoric. Yeah. And it's like, if you genuinely, I've said this a million times, if you genuinely care about the care of children, educate your fucking kids about what's going on with their bodies, what is a normal bodily function, what the body part is called, who's allowed to touch that body part, how they're, give them some agency. Don't try to kill every adult in their life that you think threatens you.
Well, I think it's interesting too. It's like, even, some of the things that are being covered in school or censored in school, like the statue of David, not being able to show that because, he's naked or whatever. And it's like, I'm pretty sure every single person on the planet has a body. Yeah. We all have certain parts, certain people have other parts, whatever. Why is that made to be like, why should you be teaching your kid to shame that, or to be afraid of that, or to not think that that's okay? Like, that's the part I just am
because bad things happen in darkness, like where there is ignorance, people can pray harder. Yeah,
that is true. But I just, it's a very weird time right now for all these things. And I don't know what or when the outcome will be what we want it to be, but I do get worried at times. Like I really do, but I'm also like, the lid is already off these things. No one is going to go back in time and like make people be erased.
So that's what
Like,
they're trying
that's just,
to do.
I know. And that's what they're trying to do, but that just can't happen. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, and I not that it's the same at all, but I think I grew up very complacent in regard to reproductive rights. I thought Roe v. Wade will never be taken away, you know?
Like I didn't even think it was an option.
I didn't think it was an option. I thought we all arrived to this point because we're all smart enough now. You know, the same thing with any kind of queer rights, whether it's marriage or whatever. I was like, okay, we all arrived to this conclusion because it's smart. But some people don't get it. And I have seen some stories of people coming around and beginning to understand. Some people are like, where were you this whole time? I'm like, I know, but at this point, we can't afford to not let in people that want to understand more.
Yeah, and I think I always say this too. I'm like, once you put someone on the defense in terms of like making a mistake, you know, a lot of people approach me and always say he in terms of pronouns, and that's not what I choose. That's, for me, that's not who I am.
Yeah.
And I don't go at a point of being like, well, it's actually they, like being like getting mad at them for doing that. Because as soon as you shut down the conversation or shut down that bridge, there's no coming back from that. Like, people will be like, oh, you know, it's that once anybody goes into defense mode, it's over. Like, the conversation is done. So it's like, I want to welcome as many people in as I can with this, and try to, I would rather make a point of trying to help a greater cause than to put someone just to completely shut them off completely, because nothing is accomplished that way.
No, tone can help everything, but it's so funny because I'm even like struggling recently. Like, I was at this party and someone misgendered Jonathan Van Ness, and I didn't want to be the person, you know, I didn't want to be like, it's actually, so I was like, Jonathan uses they, them pronouns, like quietly or whatever. And one person was like, what? And I was like, they use they, them pronouns or whatever. And they were like, oh, okay. And then another person was talking about Jonathan and said he, him. And I, again, very quietly, I was like, they, them, just the nudge or whatever, because I didn't want them to come off hateful to, you know, or ignorant, you know. I want to give them the opportunity, but I also didn't want to. And this girl that I had just met who knows nothing about me, she goes, why do you keep whispering it? Are you like ashamed or whatever? And I'm like, like I'm kind of, I guess, because I've had people when I correct them that lash out, you know? So
you don't want them to feel like you're shaming them for saying the wrong thing. Right. But they are wrong. So it is a weird place. And I've seen other people kind of like snap and be like, that's not what it is or whatever. And it shuts that person down who probably would be open and willing to say the right pronouns, but they feel scared to even change the way that they would say things because afraid of being attacked. And I'm like, I don't think that's the proper way to kind of inspire change in terms of all these things.
Totally. No, I was like, I'm just trying, like, if I had misgendered somebody, that is how I would want somebody to kind of tell me.
Yeah, it's, you know, like, just quietly, it's actually this, it's fine, but
they're actually they, them. They, you know, like, shh.
Yeah, it's like, that's it. Like, that's all you have to do is that. But I think that's like, at least you did that. At least you kind of said something, though, because
you have to.
It's the appropriate thing to do.
But also, I know that those are well-intentioned people. Like, those two people, I know them, so I'm like, you must not know. Yeah. Like, I don't assume that they were trying to misgender. So if it's a stranger, like, you never know.
I mean, you never know where it's like, I mean, that's the funniest thing about some of these people on, I mean, even the thing on like the Fox News coverage that happened on my picture, they were like a biological male. And like, I kept joking to all my friends being like, oh my God, you called me that? Like, that's nuts. Like, I can't believe that's the worst thing that you could ever call me. Like, thank you for breaking me. It's like, girl, do something original. Like, if you're going to insult me or think you're going to insult me, let's go there. Like, try to do it, because calling me that is not going to make me like fall apart or like break break my soul or anything. It's like, that's ridiculous. But I do think it's funny I was joking about it, but it's annoying because they think that they're insulting you by saying those things. And it's like, you're just
by saying facts,
ignorant.
You're like, yeah, biologically for sure. But like, you have not said anything about my gender.
Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you.
But no, it was fun to see some of these kind of like Fox News things. It was like looking like it was happening to somebody else that wasn't me, hearing people talk about it like that. And I kind of was like patting myself on the back being like, I'm freaking them out. And that's exactly where I want them.
Yeah, no, that's the best attitude I think you can have for like self-preservation.
And it's like, I feel sorry for them too, because it's like, you're wasting time on this, like literally something I wasn't even paid to do.
Yeah.
And I'm wearing a bra and panties. Like what
that
else
you weren't
to
going to purchase.
About?
You know,
literally
like you probably don't even know what this brand is.
They have 10 stores in the US. Like, I mean, it is a huge brand. They have over 1 million followers, which is incredible, but it's not like a Victoria's Secret or, anything like that. That's like a huge name in America. So it's like, you wouldn't even have thought about this brand at all. And you're going to use me to kind of chastise them. Like, let's not go there.
Yeah. I also just wanted to get back to like people being mad that somebody that the lingerie wasn't quote unquote designed for is wearing it, because I saw this amazing TikTok last night about inclusion, and it started with, why would we cater to the population or the trans population if it's only like less than 2% of people? And I'll like just put the audio in so they can listen to it.
Change the world for less than 2% of the population.
Why should we remake society for 2% of the population? That's the percentage of people who this creator is saying are trans. So why should we remake society to help such a small group of people? Earlier, she says she likes to think logically, and it's just not logical to recreate society to help 2% of the population. But I want to talk about something called the curb cut effect. This was a term coined by Angela Glover Blackwell, and it's about the fact that when we make changes to society to help small marginalized populations, it ends up helping everyone. So let's say you don't even care about trans people. What is it about helping sure that marginalized groups like queer people, like trans people specifically, can flourish and can exist? Well, it's going to help everyone. Curb cuts were something that were started in Berkeley, California in the 1960s when Ed Roberts, a man paralyzed by polio, noticed that it was very hard to get up and down from sidewalks. Curb cuts are the cutouts of sidewalks that create little ramps. They started as an accommodation for wheelchair users, but now curb cuts are used by everyone. It makes it easier to push a stroller across the street. It makes it easier to roll a suitcase if you're going to the airport for business. There are tons of things that started as accessibility measures for disabled Americans or disabled people worldwide. Take, for example, closed captioning on TikTok or on TV that are now used by everyone and which just make life better. There are OXO hand grip kitchen tools that were designed for people with arthritis that are just easier to use for everyone. So what about queerness has to do with the curb cut effect? When we break down binaries of gender or expectations of gender roles, it liberates everyone. So much of the discourse on this app is about fear that, a kid is going to want to wear a t-shirt with a rainbow or play the wrong sport or pursue the wrong job. Those are the constraints of gender normativity and gender binaryism that have constrained everyone. So even if you're not trans, even if you're not non-binary or gender non-conforming, even if you're not queer, the fact of questioning and rejecting these very rigid rules and categories, it really frees all of us. Even if you're a straight, cisgendered man who, happens to like ballet, or a girl who wants to go into a conventionally male-dominated field, the movement for queer liberation and for trans liberation and safety and belonging will ultimately benefit everyone.
Great. Like it literally all ships rise when you try to help the people who are helped the least.
Yeah. And it's like, I even think about it too, just in terms of being able to see yourself represented. Sure, it might not to you, it might not be the same. To me, it might not be the same seeing somebody, but seeing somebody that you could relate to, it does wonders for people because no, it doesn't even have to be about lingerie. But again, it can be about affecting some other thing that is like, oh, well, what about people thinking about this or people thinking about that? But it could always help people.
Sidewalks, captions. Everybody uses captions now.
I know. And it's amazing.
Yeah.
But so it's like some of these things, it's like, it might seem trivial to them and be like, oh my God, like this is so insane that this is happening. But that's not the case. Like it's really exposing people to different things and different ideas and thoughts and pushing culture forward. I think that's like the part that's so beautiful about all of it. And the exposure of all of it is like, you never know what this could affect change. Sure, it might seem really trivial, but it's not. And it's not at all.
Yeah. And I do think a lot of hate does come from jealousy, that it's like, I either think I would never look as good in that, or like, I'm just jealous that you do, or I'm jealous that you would even take up the space to show off how happy you are.
That's exactly what I was about to say. I think that sometimes it's weird for people to see people embrace themselves completely and also be confident in that and not be afraid to show that, because we're taught to kind of hide these things or not. That's not acceptable in society or whatever. And it's like, that's not a rule. That didn't like come out of like the Big Bang and like that's what the rule was. Like these are developed things that someone said was so, and that's just not true.
I've literally been guilty of it where like I'll see somebody post something and I'm just like, what makes you think that people care about that? But then I'm like, they do. This is unlearning that we have to do. But that's me being mad at somebody giving themselves permission that I haven't given myself yet.
I mean, I do think that everything that's been going on, especially now lately, it's definitely that, whether it's from movements like Black Lives Matter and seeing white people lose their shit over people just being like, we want you to know that we matter, we exist, we are exponentially dealing with something that you will never, ever even have to think about. And that coincides with trans rights and queer rights and gay rights too. It's like, just because it doesn't affect you doesn't mean that it's not a thing, or it's like,
and it doesn't mean it doesn't relate to you in some way.
Yeah. Because it's like, I guarantee you that, God forbid, your child is one of these things that you're so against. I feel sorry for that kid in a way.
I always say, God forbid reincarnation is real and you come back as somebody that you've been oppressing.
Ooh.
How do you feel now?
Now that's some karma. That's some karma shit right there.
Karma is my boyfriend.
Karma is a cat, honey. Karma is a cat.
Karma is a cat. She is so mean to me. She swipes me constantly and she's only here for food.
Purring in my lap because it loves me.
Yeah, she's dumping that fucking racist, I guess.
Oh my God. I was like, girl, he's got to go. Like, got to go.
What are you doing?
I reckon it was like PR marketing something.
But from whose camp?
I heard a theory last night that apparently it's so that when you Google Taylor Swift 1975, it comes up with that instead of like some Kissing Gate scandal that was around a couple years ago thing. Like apparently it was to like, I wouldn't be surprised. This girl is smart, and also like she released the Speak Now album cover yesterday, so it's all like happening. I don't know.
Yep.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of things. What are some things that give you gender euphoria?
Ooh, some things that give me gender euphoria are, I think for me, wearing some of the things that I do, they just make me feel like a superhero. Like I feel the ultimate version of me, like getting to wear a really good piece of lingerie. Like over the years, I've really developed some good relationship with some designers that I, use for costuming for my shows. And, wearing something that's amazing, you just feel like you can't tell me shit. Like I know I look good and I feel really good. And there's something so empowering about that whenever you step out and you're just like, I feel great. Like I went to see Beyonce here in London on Sunday and I wore this like amazing kind of like cat suit and I just felt good. You know what I mean? I think for me, it has to do with like the process of putting on my makeup and then putting on a really good outfit that I feel confident in. And I'm just like, this is, I just feel, I don't have to think. I don't have to think at all.
Yeah.
And to me, that is like gender euphoria. Isn't just not being aware of anything, just myself. That's it.
Yeah. And can I ask, because this is kind of a different question, but the same, because we have seen people getting really mad at gender affirming care. And I think they think it's always surgeries.
Yes.
What does gender affirming care look like to you as a non-binary person?
I mean, to me as a non-binary person, it has been, I still struggle with this. Like, you know, growing up at the time I did, there's still a lot of shame attached to it. And sometimes, you know, even in situations where I am called a different pronoun, there's times where I don't even correct them because I get self-conscious about it. Because I think there's still some shame that I have attached to it too, of being like, no, this is who I am. I mean, I'm pretty assertive, like about who I am all the time, but there are times
sometimes you're like, I don't feel like coming out today.
Yeah. Or I don't feel like sometimes I'm like, it would just be easier if this was just like, just breeze by it. Like, I just don't need to deal with it today.
I feel the same way.
Which is annoying. Like I wish I didn't feel that way sometimes, but I do. But I think for me, you know, I think for me, a lot of it has to do with presentation of, you know, walking out in the world and, you know, wearing something like the top that I have on where it's like your shoulders are down, like typically would be, I bought it in the quote unquote women's section of the store where I bought it.
Yeah.
And, you know, getting to do that and, you know, mixing in some of these elements that are a little bit more feminine into my everyday wardrobe. To me, that is like such self-care because it's so empowering to me to be like, I'm choosing to wear this. I'm going to hold my shoulders back and my chin up and like go through the world like that. Like that to me is so cool because for a long time I would have held myself back from this so much or tried to be like the more mask quote unquote version of myself. And, you know, it's like, I'm a person, like I love to be at the gym. Like I love to work out the way I do. And I've received criticism from online from people in the queer space being like, well, you don't look non-binary and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, what does that look like? Like, what does that look like?
Also, you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like, no matter what, someone is always going to have an issue with anything. I mean, you could literally be doing everything right. And people would be like, I hate that. You know what I mean? So
yeah, no, so many of these people like trans surgeries or whatever, whether it's a top surgery or breast implants or whatever.
FFS, like female feminization
whatever
surgery
it is, people will be like, don't get that, you're lying or whatever. But then if you were to just accept yourself as a trans woman who has a beard, they'd be like, you're not a woman, you know? So it's like they're trying to stick people between a rock and a hard place, and it's not intentional. Like Sasha Colby has talked about the fact that she's like, the drag bands, they're actually trans bands, like of trans people in daily life.
Yes. Where it's like, where she was saying too, it's like, I could like go out with makeup on my face and people could be like, oh, that's drag, so you're going to jail. You know, it's like, it's ridiculous. And it's such a misguided and misplaced distraction. Yeah. That's all it is. And it's like, I wish that people would just look at people like they would want for themselves to be treated. You know what I mean? Like
the golden rule?
They don't want to go out in the world and be talked to like that or themselves, you know? So it's like, why would you treat another human who is literally just going through this experience we call like the human experience, just trying to be happy and just trying to get through it. Life is already hard enough. Some of the things that we have to go through as humans is horrible and awful. It's like, why would you want to stifle that of anybody that's just trying to get through it no matter how they can? Because it's like, you know, always the obsession with surgery or what parts do you have or what, you know, all this stuff. It's just it's a complete distraction from what is the true heart of the issue, which is like, you have a problem with yourself, and you have a problem with anything that has to do with something that is not you.
And you can't understand the idea of anybody loving you if you weren't, quote unquote, what you were supposed to be.
That part.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I'm not saying this as someone who's never judged anyone. I'm saying this as a depressed person who has been wildly judgmental of people. And so I know when people are being that way, like, they're not well.
Yeah.
That's not an excuse for them, but like, it's also just a thing to remind yourself that, like, if that person felt so moved to insult you on your post, what else is wrong in their life?
That's the part. I just have to have empathy and like sympathy for people, because I'm like, I spent my day always trying to be like as positive, as happy as I can be. And of course I fall short of that all the time. But like, I would never go on somebody that somebody I don't know and comment something like some of the things people say to me on my posts. I'm like, I would never waste the time writing a dissertation on Instagram on somebody that I don't even know, or that doesn't, quote unquote, affect my life. Like, I will never understand that. I won't even
post a compliment to a friend that I'm like just a little close with sometimes, because I'm like, is this my place? Like, are we close enough for me to tell them that their outfit's cute? Like, the audacity of some people, it really blows my mind.
I really do try to, I do try to see where they're coming from. I do try to, like, I don't know, just intellectually try to figure it out. But some of these things I will just never understand. Like, I just won't.
Yeah.
And I don't have to.
No, you don't have to. And then I just wanted to not make a final point, but just say something about a thing that I've been seeing pop up too, is that there was this man that was like taking apart a Target display because he was mad during Pride.
Oh, yeah.
And now it turns out that he's on Grindr and he's had sex with men before or whatever. And a lot of people's response is, well, that's always the case. They're always closeted or whatever. And I'm like, no. You're not going to blame this on queer people again, because yes, there are closeted queer people who like are making things hell for other people, but that is definitely not the majority. And I assure you, there are still straight people who are being evil and trying to get horrible things passed.
Yeah, I mean, I think that puts, again, all the blame and focus on queer and gay or queer people in general. And I think that that's so misguided and so not right, because there are just some people that are just hateful people that don't want to understand anything at all. And it's like, I get that. People have said that a lot to me too. Like, people are just writing all those things because they want to get with. I was like, I don't think that's true at all, because then that puts this like weird. Of course, there's a lot of shame-based stuff within queer community. We have to really, really deal with that a lot in our lives. But I don't. They're not the same thing. They're not the same thing. And I'm actually. It's so funny that you said that, because I haven't even thought about that in a long time. And I think that that's it's the right thing to say, because that's putting all the blame and focus on being
it's
gay,
been coming
queer,
up again,
whatever.
And people think it's like this massive own. It's like, again, they're always gay. And it's like, okay, so everybody who's putting trans bans in place, they're actually trans. That's what you believe? Like, no. Come on. Yeah.
No, they're just ignorant, scared people that are trying to, it's a distraction tactic. That's what all it is. There's something else it's always that. There's always trying to be like blaming someone or scapegoating someone or a group of people for something that's way bigger than that and also has nothing to do with them.
So another topic, just because we have you for a little longer, has been sports. And I've never cared about sports.
Me either.
The thing I cared about sports was sitting out during gym. Like, I don't need to be on a team. I'm going to sit out. There's a lot of people who suddenly care about women's sports. suddenly care about sports in general, and it's what's fair and stuff. And I haven't really heard like a great plan from anyone besides let kids all play together until puberty happens. But then it always kind of gets murky. It's like, and I'm like, well, Robin's on a football team. Do you want to tell your football team story?
We play in an inclusive league that is for women. And that means that we include trans women because they're women. But I feel like there's a lot of questioning about how fair the game is then going to be when we're playing against a trans woman. And I don't have all the answers. I personally, I'm like, she can play. She's no different. But also it's like, how do we call it? How do we determine it? I feel like there's a lot of questions going on in our team of whether, because, you know, she may have played football as a man for longer than we've played football as women, or she may not have, and we're just trying to figure out the best way to go forward. I don't know, like it feels like it's a very hot topic, and there's no,
which is crazy in an inclusive league to me, that I'm like, I can't believe this is a conversation in the inclusive league, but like, I guess we haven't figured it out yet.
And we haven't, and I don't think anybody in our league is saying she's not a woman. And I don't think she's the only, I think there are a fair few trans women in our league, but I think it's just people are, because it's new and we haven't seen it before. And I think for a lot of people, this is the first league that we've played in where there has been a trans woman in it, that they're like, I don't know, this is different. What do we do? Are we doing the right thing? Are we doing the wrong thing? We don't know if we're doing it. Like, obviously she's allowed to play, but I feel like there's just, nobody knows the right way to go about everything because it's never been.
I think that sports in general, I think it's a very male centric thing. And I think that it's always been placed on that. I mean, if you look at the exponential pay disparity between the WNBA, NBA, and anything where there's a male and a female counterpart in terms of sports, you can see that there's like this huge disparity in that, in terms of just coverage, whatever, fandom, all of it. And
support
I think
from
that's
schools.
Obviously, that's patriarchal society 101 right there. And I think that, I don't know, I just think that obviously there's got to be the conversation around all of this, where there's figuring out how to deal with this. And I don't know what the answer is to all of that.
Right.
But what I will say is, like, who fucking cares? Like, play the sport that you want to play, no matter how you identify. Get over it. Like, there's so much more important stuff to worry about. Like, why is this a thing? Like, who cares?
I think it's a thing because cis women worry that they've already been pushed out of so many spaces that they're like, oh, here's another, person to take another slot from me. And that's a scarcity mentality that, like, we do have to reckon with. Like, I used to be very competitive with other women because I thought there's only room for one girl in this friend group. There's only room for one girl in comedy. There's only, because the slots weren't created, but we have to open up the slots a little more, I think. I also would consider, like, should there be non-binary leagues? Like, that might be fun for people.
That's where I'm at, is like, do we then create a separate league again?
No, because that's not fair. Because you can't have just a trans woman league. There's not going to be enough of that.
But if we have like then if I don't know, it really throws my head.
I don't want to force more trans women to play soccer.
Like, I'm not trying to force it, but like, I don't know where we go from here, because to me, I'm like, let's all just play. Like, like football, especially women's football, was huge before the war, and then men were like, no, like, when men went off to war, the women would play it, and it was a huge sport in this country. It was a women's sport, and then the men came back and they were like, no, women can't play it anymore, and the men took it back. So for so long, women weren't allowed to play football. It wasn't televised. There was no funding for it. There was nothing. And only recently,
but that would mean trans women couldn't play either.
exactly, that meant that no woman could play. And only recently have we kind of been able to play. You look at like the women's Super League, the football, the women's World Cup's happening in Australia and New Zealand soon. Like it's a big thing. But even now, they haven't even sorted out the major, like who's going to be televising it. Like you know, if you would think if it was the men's World Cup, Sky Sports would be like, it's mine, I want it, I'm paying for it, or they'd be fighting with everyone. But they don't even know who's televising it yet. Like they still don't care about the women's sports as much as they should. Like, I don't know how, like...
And I'm sure there's not that much inclusion of trans men on men's teams, too. And so that's why I was thinking maybe there could be a league for just, like, everyone or what... Like, I don't play sports, so I don't care. But I think...
if there's a league where everyone's like, we're just playing. It doesn't matter if you're this, that, girl, boy, trans... whoever you are, you can play.
You sound like my mom trying to name us Remy, Charlotte, Jason, whoever you are.
Literally. No, but like if everyone can play in one league and they all agree that it doesn't matter, we're all happy to just have fun and enjoy the sport that we enjoy, and then you can have your own other whatever. But I don't know.
I think competition plays a very big part, because there are certain sports where there is combat. You know, you do run into each other, or you do punch each other in the face or whatever. And those sports, wrestling, usually have a weight class. I think that's a really great way to figure something out. It's
hard for football, because football is fairly contact. And this woman, she's way taller than
soccer,
me.
football, you're saying?
Yeah, my football.
Okay.
She's way taller than me, but that's not to say that there aren't going to be other women on the field that are taller than me, that are bigger than me, that are stronger than me.
Cis women are going to have biological advantages too.
That's the part.
Like, I can go, like, I am the same height as my sister, but I am much stronger than her. I am just built stronger than her. But I'm like no more or less of a woman than her because I'm built stronger, and I can, like, I don't understand, like, there's always going to be somebody bigger, stronger, faster than you. That's what competition is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like that is it. Like when she's running at me and I'm like, I am about to break a bone, that's because I am accident prone, not because she's a trans woman. Like that's on me. I need to get stronger bone density. Like, but it's nothing to do with that. Like, she could, I'm lactose intolerant. The world is against me.
Me too. Me too. But no, I think that is, once you start getting into all of the specifics of that, then it becomes like ableist. Then it becomes all these things that are just like, it's just so, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. And I wish I did. I wish I could like wave a wand and be like, this is what it is. But I don't have that. But I think that, it's just like, let people play what they want to play. The rule, obviously, if you look at how sports have gone, not that I'm like a super big fan of all of it, but like it changes with time. It changes with people having more accessibility to like workouts, to meal plans, to all this stuff. So it's like sports will continue to change. Just get out of the way and let it happen. Like, it's going to change no matter what. And it's like, whether you're including everyone or no one or whatever, no matter what, it's going to change. So it's like, either just get in front of it and be a part of the change, or get out of the way. Yeah,
that's literally one person I had a conversation with. It just really angered me, because this woman is a mother, and I don't know, she was responding to some story of mine that made her mad. And then we ended up talking about all of the issues, because why not? I've got all day.
You're like, I got time, let's go.
Yeah. And she was like, well, the thing is with sports is like, there's no solution, so they should just not play. Or there's no solution, so we should just not try to figure one out. And I'm like, if that's your mentality, get out of the kitchen. There are people here trying to cook.
That's such a weird mentality to have, because it's like, what if women were like, when they're, fighting for the right to vote, but they're like, I just don't see a path forward, so we're just gonna, lie down and be like, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah.
No. What the? That's not even an argument. That's like, you got to come with something better than that. I'm sorry.
Also, then you don't care about sports. Like, the little bit that I do care about sports, I want to see the best of the best performing.
That part.
I want to watch the Olympics where people are good. I don't want people to be excluded because they were told they should never play. Like,
Yep.
you're fucking dumb. I'm done with this conversation. No.
That's exactly how I feel about it. I'm like, do better, be better.
Like, I also get that it's difficult, clearly, from, like that I'm just like, well, I don't know. Should there be more leagues? Should there be one league? Like, I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, at least we're having the conversation.
Yeah.
And I think we always forget to like look back and see how far we have come with other things that we've like
we take for granted
and,
now.
Like you said, women never used to be able to vote, and like now we can, and it took time, and we showed up, and there were enough people being like, you know what, we need to do something, and then something happened. But we can't just like be like, no, that's actually, it hasn't been like that, so it's not going to be like that, because then nothing is going to happen. Like,
yeah. But that's what's called a conservative. They don't want to change.
Yes, it's like the refusal to change. Refusal to change. That's the part. That's the part that scares me. It's like, as like a person, as a human, whatever, our goal on what we call this planet is like to be as malleable as possible, to learn, to grow, to change, because it always is going to do that. No matter what, we can't stop that. Like, there's no stopping that. So it's like, why would you waste your time here trying to be the opposite of that? I will never understand that. Like, I just don't get it.
That's the best part of being a kid and learning about history and science is like, I love progress. I love looking at where we started and where we've come, and like, literally, how do you guys not like that?
So, no, but how do you also, I've like in I don't know, like with this too, have all the award shows, like the different acting award shows.
I was going to say that too.
Non-binary and trans people. It's like, I don't know what the answer is for all of that, but it's a really cool conversation to have about how people are recognized within these spaces. It's interesting. There's this big burlesque competition called the Burlesque Hall of Fame. It happens every year in Vegas, and it just happened this past weekend. And this is the first year that it's a genderless category. Like, the first time you're competing is best debut. After you've done best debut, then you can complete for M whatever exotic world. So it could be Miss, it could be Mr., it could be MX, it could be anything like that. And it was cool seeing how it all played out. And I obviously wasn't able to go because I'm in London, but it was fun hearing from my friends that were there being like, it was the most celebratory thing.
Yeah.
To just see all these people, and like, you get to choose what that award, like what the title of that award looks like. And I think that would be interesting at the Academy Awards, if it was just straight up best acting, best supporting acting. Like, don't make it a gender thing, make it whoever thing. And may the best person, or whoever the studio pays to be the best person, win.
Yeah. I think the reason that people are afraid of those categories getting blended too is, again, patriarchy, because they're like, people will be more inclined to just vote for all the men or whatever, which we've even seen queer things follow this. Like, we know ballroom started with trans women, and that trans women were involved in drag and all that stuff. But then it kind of got...
The gay rights movement was started by trans women.
Yes.
Like,
Yes. But then it got patriarchied, and the women got kind of removed. And then you watched 10 seasons, I think, of RuPaul's Drag Race before there were any trans performers.
Or any out trans performers.
Right. Sorry. Yeah. Or any AFAB performers, like to the point that when one was introduced, I was like, you can't be that, because I had grown up watching it being like, no, it has to be gay men pretending to be women rather than the art of drag. It became more about like, well, they don't have to tuck. And it's like, okay, but that's not the whole thing.
Yeah.
And also that's not what this has ever been
so.
about. Exactly. Some have really meaty non-tucks.
And they're like, it fucking hurts and I'm not going to do that. So here it is.
Poutine refuses to tuck. And I love her.
I mean, it's painful.
Yeah. I don't know. If I had a penis for a day, I don't think tucking is something I would try. I think I would just masturbate all day.
Yeah, but I feel like I'd also be curious just to be like,
Just pull it.
How does it go inside?
What can I do? How we have to stretch this?
I mean, yeah, it's like, you know, what you don't have, you always wonder, like, oh, what would that be like? Like, I wondered that too. Like,
Totally.
what would it be like to have a vagina? Like, that would be, I don't know, there's something really cool and empowering about that.
Same. That's the thing that gets me. I am always thinking like about like, would I be happier with a penis? Like, would I be happier with top surgery or whatever? And I'm like, but I love my boobs. Like,
and that's okay too.
And that's fine. And like, and I just wish I could switch back and forth every day, you know, just flip a switch, pop some parts.
I mean, I feel like that would make the world such a better place if
it'd be so fun.
No one would ever it would just be like, whatever you feel, do it, you know? But that's unfortunately not where we live.
And until then, just try to not make anyone feel guilty about the things that they feel if they're not hurting anyone, and try to be kinder to yourself.
That's it. It's like, we're all just trying to like get through it and make it through this thing and be nice to ourselves. Like, why can't we do that for other people? Like, I don't think it's such a hard thing to do that.
Yeah. And if you can't do it for yourself, start there. Give yourself a little self-care.
Because you know, we know lots of people that really don't love themselves. Sometimes I've been there.
And if you can't love yourself,
hate everyone. No, I'm kidding. That part. No, I don't know. It's like all these conversations are so good because it's what it is. It's a conversation. It's a true meeting of the minds, being like, where you come from is different from where I come from, where you come from. And it's like all those things. That's what makes all this so good, is that every person approaches everything in life so differentently. But the fact that we can talk about it and discuss these things, that's the most important part. And I think that's so important. I wish everything people would just lean into that more, is like the collective is so much better than the one.
Yeah. And also, I think a really important part that somehow we've gotten raised thinking that people's value is correlated to how much you want to fuck them. Like, people's value, it doesn't change whether you're attracted to them or not. You don't have to be attracted to the people that are in campaigns. That's okay. It's really okay.
Yeah.
It's probably better that you're not attracted to everyone, you know?
Yeah. And also it's like, you know, you could see the most attractive person, like conventionally attractive person, and not feel anything for them at all. So it's like, what does it matter what that person looks like on a quote unquote campaign, or like in an ad or anything like that? It's like,
I know it's not a campaign, you guys.
Yeah, it's not a campaign. It's in my friend's living room.
Didn't even have shoes on.
I literally did not have shoes on and was like trying to be like cunt in the living room. So yeah.
This has been amazing. I'm so excited that we finally got you on this podcast.
Yeah, me too. This has been so nice. I feel like I've known both of you for a long time.
I know.
This has been great.
I'm glad I didn't know what the conversation would be, but I'm really glad we got into some like deeper things about
like
it.
Actual things. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, it is important to talk about it. Like we said in some of these other conversations, it's like, do we know the answers? No, but this is how I feel about it. And I think it's important to express those things.
And I think also for people to hear that it's okay to not know, like people listening to hear us just having a conversation, being like, we don't have.
The whole foundation of this podcast is I'm like, I don't know stuff,
but we're talking about it.
It's also, it's okay to be wrong at times.
Yeah.
It is. It's okay to be wrong. And also it's okay to make a mistake. Like, you know, even like me coming out as non-binary and admitting that to myself, for a long time, I was like so scared of like, you know, having to like have that conversation with my family, blah, 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 all that stuff. And it's like, I've gotten it wrong. I still get it wrong. Like even me just trying to figure out who I am, it's always going to be never completely right. But I'm willing to do the work. I'm willing to work on it and see how it goes. And I think I wish everybody would approach it that way, is like, be that person that's like always wanted to kind of just be malleable and listen. I think that's the most important part, is listen. Just listen.
Yeah.
That's
Just
it. You don't have to
take it in.
you don't have to have all the answers. And it's okay to ask questions too. I think that's the most important part, is that ask the question. Don't be afraid of that.
I hate asking this question because everybody always has to ask it about coming out. But
Yes.
How were your parents?
They honestly were incredible. My mom at first, okay, so when I got into this performance space that I do, I did not tell her, because I was going through a difficult time. I was in therapy, and I was like, I just need this for me. Like, I just need this for me. And I like muted her from seeing my stories and my posts. And who I thought I had blocked people from my hometown, just so it's like, this is for me. I don't need any questions about it. I just want to be happy and see what happens. She found out that I won the competition at Walmart one day from somebody that I guess had been in my hometown that followed me, that I was not completely aware of, I guess, and was like, oh my God, Jake won this thing. My mom had no idea. And I feel really bad about that, because I don't want to make her feel bad about it, but I just needed it to be mine. And like, I think that was the hardest thing for her. It was like the embarrassment of not knowing what I was doing, like this big thing that I've been doing for 3 months, basically. And she had no idea. And I regret that now, but at the time, it's what I needed for myself.
You needed it for you. Yeah. No, there's that. And Just Like That is coming back, you guys. And last season, there was that storyline where Charlotte was I'm so excited. It's trash. I can't get enough.
It's terrible, but great.
Yeah. There was that storyline about Charlotte's Child coming out and going by Rock instead of their government name at school. And Charlotte had to find out via Zoom or whatever. And she was so upset, and of course I like understand that, but you also have to understand the child's perspective. And it's not even saying like, Mom, I think you're homophobic. Mom, I think you're transphobic. It's like, I need to take the time to figure out what this means to me first. Yeah.
Cause it's like, obviously there's tons of stuff that we don't tell our parents, that our parents will never know.
Right.
But some of these things, they take time to figure out, because you're coming to terms with yourself. And it's like,
also sometimes you'll tell them that you have a new job and they won't remember that for a year. So you're like, why tell you anything?
Yes. And it's like, I'm trying to like figure out what this is for me just as a person. Like, I need to realize what that is. And then you and I can have a talk about it, because I am my own person. And also I didn't ask to get born. That was y'all making that decision
this
for
was
me.
All you guys.
So now I have to make that decision for myself as like a person.
Yeah. And gratitude for bringing me here, but again, didn't ask.
Yeah, thanyou. Sometimes I'm like, why?
I'm pro-choice because I didn't choose to be here.
that part. It's like, you just have to realize, like, sometimes it's okay to just take those time and that space for yourself, because it's already weird and hard enough to deal with some of those things and come to terms with those. And then having to explain it to somebody before you're even ready to fully be.
Then they don't believe you, because they're like, you don't know. And you're like, this is what I didn't tell you. Yeah.
It's just a phase.
Yeah.
That's my mom. That was like her biggest thing. She was like, I don't even know what you're doing. Like, I don't get it. Like, whatever. But now she is like the most supportive ever. She like helps me rhinestone my stuff, and like,
so
like,
nice.
That right leg should have been higher, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like,
and imagine you were in the mindset of some people that were like, oh, can't let her back in because she fucked up once. Like, no, like now you have an even better relationship with your mom and someone to rhinestone your clothes.
Yeah. I'm like, since you're here, do something. For once.
Amazing.
No, I'm kidding.
Are you comfortable? Because we ask everybody on this podcast about their first time coming. Are you comfortable sharing that?
Yeah, I'm totally.
Okay,
great.
great.
I was listening to other episodes and I was like, ooh, I hope they ask. I was trying to think. I was like, I don't know, but okay.
Yes.
So the first memory I have, I was at this. So every summer I would go. My parents would send myself and my brother off to like do like summer programs and stuff, just to be out of my hometown. And I was at this one in Connecticut at this like. It was like a boarding school pretty much, but it was amazing. Okay. And I don't know if I like had like a wet dream or something, but I remember waking up and being like, what is this feeling? And
So sudden and new.
That's really what I was about to go. And I was like, do I want to be that gay? Sure I do. And I remember the person I was living with in my room, he was not there. And so I think I masturbated maybe like 4 times within like the span of maybe an hour. And I was like, this is the best feeling that's ever happened to my entire self. So I think that was I think that's when I've thought about it. I think that's maybe the first time.
But so you knew that you were like, okay, it was a wet dream and it came from my penis, so I know what to do.
Well, I was scared because I was like, did I pee the bed? Right. Did I like wet the bed or something? But it was like the congealed quality of the substance was not giving pee. It was giving something different. And I was like, I don't even know what I thought it was. I don't even know. That was so long ago, but I just remember being like, that felt amazing. What do I do? And, you know, just like electricity, I found it. I invented it for myself, and I found it.
Look at you, little Thomas Edison, Ben Franklin.
I'm a cum trailblazer. So
you are. They said it, not me. Jake Dupree, it has been so much fun having you on this podcast. Can you tell everybody where they can find you online?
I'm so thankful that you would even have me on here and like want to talk about anything that I would have to do, which is amazing.
Stop. We're already in love.
I love it. But you can find me at Jake Dupree on Instagram. And if you want to find me, you literally have to type in the entire name because I'm
shadow
banned because my ass is out a lot. So.
Good.
And where are tickets for what you're doing at the moment?
Oh, if you want to come see me in London, I'll be here till July 16th. And you can go to proudcabaret.com. And I am on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So any of the shows that you select, I'm there. So come on.
Amazing. Okay, unreal. I have to ask you one more question.
Oh, yes.
That I have to ask everybody after a sexual experience. Jake, did you finish?
I always finish, but I always like to finish. I always like to finish second, though. I like to feel I'm a person that I guess I always pursue accomplishment. So I want to know that I accomplished something. And that to me is finishing the other person or helping them get there, and then I can go there. So
okay,
I'm very selfless.
We're great. You have accomplished a lot with the two of us.
Yes.
Oh, honey, I've been accomplishing things since I was 15.
Thank you so much for coming, and we'll see you guys next time on How Come. Goodbye.
Bye.
It's not you, it's me. I try so hard to finish honestly. They say you'll know when you go all the way from A right down to O. Oh no, I think that I still got a ways to go. Oh, I'm sick of this and I have got to know. How come? How come I can't achieve? How come I can't achieve? I'm rolling up my sleeves. Oh baby, I believe these guests can help. 'Cause I can't do it by myself. I wanna just
I feel so stupid about not asking Jake how they felt when the brand still supported them. 'Cause like even Bud Light didn't do that. Even Target didn't do that. So it's like kind of huge that this tiny brand did. And I think they kind of alluded to that. But shout out to Honey Birdette because that's really cool. Also, if you guys are looking for more episodes of How Come and you want to hear one about riding dick, patreon.com/howcome. We got a whole episode about riding dick and it's uncensored, as they all are, unedited, and only $5 for all of them. Also, I don't know if you remember this, but if you want to listen to these episodes without ads, patreon.com/howcome for only $6. Does that include everything below? Yes, it does. We love the support and appreciate you so much. Thanks for sticking around. Bye.